There's actually water falling from the sky. There's clouds in the sky. Crazy. First time in I don't know how many weeks. 2 months? I think there might have been a slight shower one day a month and a half ago or something. That's about it. Unbelievable. So, got to process 90 chickens tomorrow. Should be interesting. Bit of a pain in the butt, but it's definitely well worth the effort. And I've had so many emails coming in, it's ridiculous. I think yesterday, well, no, I think I'll go down the list far again. As I said earlier, I'm going to keep going back and forth. Recent and older. Because so many people can, something will knee-jerk reply to a certain email, and it always makes sense for them to, for us to know exactly what they're talking about right away. If that made any sense, what I just said. Now, Mark, this is read. This is titled Sedona, Arizona. Good day, sir. You recently read 2 of my encounters. Childhood visit by Sabby in Carmel Valley, California, and a recent winter with a dog man. 30 years ago, we were visiting my husband's parents in Sedona, Arizona. My son was 6 months old. The day we arrived, my husband, baby, and I took a hike on state land, butting up to the Red Rocks. Shortly into the hike, I had an overwhelming urge to stop and retreat back to the house. I felt as though I had walked into an invisible wall. Late that night, I was up around 2 a.m. watching movies with the volume down. Bedroom windows were open and there was a substantial breeze coming through the window. The baby, dog, and my husband were sleeping soundly. A putrid smell came wafting in on the breeze. The smell got stronger and actually made my eyes water. It was a combination of feces, body odor, and rotted meat. I froze as I heard sniffing at the window screen, then a huff sound followed by the screen being pressed upon. See, that would suck ass for everybody. At first I thought it was an animal, but as the window was 5 feet off the ground, I knew it had to be something pretty big. I turned off the TV in order to totally darken the room. I slipped onto the floor to find our dog shivering on the floor, fully awake. I couldn't shake my husband awake, so I slipped out into the great room and to look out the window. Seeing my vision was blocked, I turned on the floodlights. I saw nothing, walked away. After returning to the bedroom, the smell was gone. I'd heard nothing walk in the typical Arizona yard covered in gravel. I kept the lights on and closed and locked the window. The next morning I went aside in time to see my father-in-law rinse a large handprint and dried saliva off the window screen. I told him that something had been outside the window the night before, and he told me it was probably just a javelina. No way. Regards, Roxanne. I think I read that, Roxanne, already. Why would I have it in there twice? No biggie. That's creepier than hell. I don't know why this smell thing is alarming to me. I don't get it. I don't understand the smell thing. I know one thing. Your average wolf smells disgusting when you have your hands on them. Bears don't normally smell like much when you have your hands on them either. Both grizzly and black, which I've had my hands on many of both. Unless they are on a rotting putrid kill. But even then, they don't roll around on it like a canine. Like a grizzly will take your kill, his kill, your kill, whatever. He'll take a kill and he'll bury it and then lay on top of the mound. He doesn't waste time rolling around on it, covering his fur and goo. They just don't do it. Neither do black bears. But canines do. And wolves, what's the smell of the wolf? The smell of a wolf, you touch the fur once with your fingers, ugh, and the smell sticks to you for a long time. It's a very powerful smell. How would I describe it? I would describe it more like the smell is more on like the urine side of a scent as opposed to like the lower end rotten meat smell. It's more of a higher pitched smell, if that makes any sense, like an ammonia, really makes you go, whoa. Not like ammonia, but on that level of sharpness and the stink. So why these beings have this common description of the smell being that powerful is that really has my curiosity due to me only due to me being absolutely familiar with how predators smell on average, right? And how they get to smell like that. I don't understand it myself. Not yet, anyway. Maybe one day somebody will inform us. Not that it's high on my curiosity list as compared to the other factors. This is titled Sasquatch. Hi, Steve. I don't know if you ever read my first email, but here's another one. Just the same. My first encounter occurred back in the 90s at a popular local watering hole back in the Pennsylvania woods that you've got to climb down a steep embankment to get to. I'm not going to give you the exact whereabouts here. I arrived there in the early afternoon with a handful of buddies, a case of beer, and we were all carrying guns. We spent the day back there being stupid, drinking, shooting empty bottles, and telling stories. Whenever I'm telling stories in the woods, you can bet the subject matter is Sasquatch. I'd mix real stories I'd heard or read with some campfire bullshit, so as not to freak everybody out too much and leave them laughing in the end. This afternoon was no different, and every so often I'd let loose with a wild scream at the top of my lungs for a dramatic effect. Before I knew it, it was dusk, and visibility was getting lower by the minute. At some point, as darkness fell, he must have come in close to silently observe what we were up to. As we stood around, still talking and drinking in the pitch blackness, I let another scream fly. This time, he immediately answered me with the loudest, most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard in my life, from directly behind me. I could feel the heat of his breath on the back of my neck. My insides shook, my legs turned to rubber, and I was instantly terrified. But I knew instinctively what he wanted. I gathered the group up, and we exited the forest in a single-file line. Each of us holding on to the jacket of the guy in front like a caterpillar, climbing back up the embankment as he paralleled our every step, just out of sight off to the right, all the way back to our car on the side of the mountain road. He never hurt any of us, but his message was simple. We had our fun, but it was time to go. Thanks for listening. Keep up the good fight, brother. The truth is out there. Steve. Okay, man. And then I guess I must have found your other email. So here is one right below it. Love your YouTube channel. Your stories, hunting and otherwise, are incredible and very entertaining. Anyone can see you're a straight-up dude, no bullshit. Thank you for the kind words, man. Well, here's one of mine. I've never been much of a hunter, but I've always enjoyed camping out and partying. Weed. Don't judge me, haha. In the forests of Pennsylvania. A few summers ago, one of my buddies decided to invest in a 10-man tent complete with LED lights, which we broke in by taking out to a nice-sized clearing in the state game lands, maybe an hour south of where we live. All afternoon, there was this awful odor in the air. Kind of skunk mixed with decaying animal carcass that followed us wherever we went. Even in the Jeep with the top off. That night we were sleeping in our sleeping bags on top of army cots, and I get awoken by the sound of dull thuds and footsteps outside the tent, like something running around, messing with us. Naturally, I wasn't come out to investigate until morning. I found several baseball-sized rocks scattered on the ground that weren't there previously. I said nothing to my buddies, but I had an idea of what was responsible. Fast forward to the following afternoon, it was getting late and the sun was setting. We were standing around the outside of the tent, the chain smoking cigarettes and talking to the guys. Then I thought I heard a cow, which was effed up enough since we were in the woods with no farms nearby. But as we talked, the mooing continued, and no one else seemed to pay it any mind. I focused on it, and over a few minutes, it stopped sounding like a cow, but more like a big dude with a deep baritone voice doing a bad imitation of a cow. As I was trying to figure out which direction it was coming from, my eyes scanned the tree line, and that's when I saw it, standing in the high brush, just inside the cover of the trees and out of the fading sunlight. The massive silhouette of huge shoulders, arms, and chest with a hint of head in between, like a life-size jet-black cutout of the Incredible Hulk. At his biggest and angriest, swaying back and forth about 50 yards away, maybe closer. The arms were longer than a man's and ended in catcher's mitt-sized hands, which it must have balled into fists. Since I couldn't make out any fingers, I tried to watch it from my periphery at first, stealing glances while pretending to pay attention to my friends. who were oblivious to it and everything else besides whatever the hell they were talking about and facing another direction. Then I looked directly at it for several minutes before turning away, and when I turned back again, it was gone. I'm 6'1", 200 pounds. This thing was 2 feet taller than me and every bit of 500 pounds. I have 2 other encounters if you're interested in hearing them. Happy hunting, Steve. Okay, gotcha. Got them both. And that's a little peculiar, isn't it? So, how many people, I don't know what the deal is. Either the majority of people are absolutely out of tune with their instincts, their sixth sense, or these beings can selectively allow somebody to know their presence. It's one or the other. One or the other. I know I feel it. I feel something right now. I mean, just feel the side of my head tingling right up in my ear, like you know when you get a high pitch, you know the chalk fingernails on the chalkboard. It's like a mild form of that irritant that I get. I'm really it's getting me right here on this side of my ear the whole time I'm reading. But whatever. It's nothing bad, but anyway, carrying on. Let's get some more voices heard. No wild man, just an encounter you might like to know about. Steve, feel free to say my name, etc. if you think this is worthy of telling everyone. Well, we'll know in a minute. I'm so happy I found your channel. You're a good man, and holy shit, do I miss the outdoors. I enjoy listening to you read people's encounters as well as the message you talk about. I'm the only one in my family who likes hunting. Actually, my son and I are the only ones I was able to pass that along to my son, thank God. We need more people to stand up and let everyone know what's going on. We are hypnotized like animals before being slaughtered and fed this absolute crap called news and constantly kept in fear. CVID, climate change, racism, war, etc. Anyway, don't get me started, LOL. Okay, I'll get right to it. This isn't a story that happened outdoors or about wild man Sasquatch, etc. It's an encounter I had, and maybe this will be another piece to the puzzle you're trying to solve on a personal level. This has to do with abilities that we all have, but few know about it and even fewer believe in. This story begins with my introduction to what is referred to as remote viewing. A skill we all have and are able to use, but just like any talent, some are naturally better than others, like playing an instrument, I guess. It all started with a banned TED Talk given by a legally blind motorcycle riding physicist named Russell Targ, T-A-R-G. Most of his life was dedicated to lasers and did some incredible things with them, but as fate would have it, he was brought into the world of remote viewing, and along with some gifted individuals like Ingo Swann, yep, that was his name, may he rest in peace. Long story short-ish, he ended up with a group working with a bunch of U.S. agencies with three letters, i.e. CIA, NASA, etc. CIA, NSA, etc. Teaching remote viewing to people like Pat Price, who was able to tell them that there was a secret Soviet submarine base at a location that he was able to see with only being given a map coordinates and instructed them what was there. They didn't believe it. It made no sense for that to be there, but in the end he was proven correct. Okay, so the part that involves me. I was drawn to remote viewing and the fact that Russell Targ said everyone could do, but no one knew why. I watched shows like Third Eye Spies and learned how to remote view myself and have had some amazing results. Yes, you can do it too. Everyone can if they are told how. It's actually very easy to do, but not so easy to be accurate. When you get it right, it's one of what I call a holy shit moments. Then the story changes. I've always been interested in the paranormal and cryptids and of course Bigfoot. I found some videos made by Dr. Stephen Greer, whose name alone seems to bring out strong emotions of amazement or haters and trolls, etc. Well, like you always say, take from it what you will or leave it. But in a movie, they describe how to make contact with extraterrestrials in all sorts of form and beings that we can't even imagine. Form of beings that we can't even imagine. Basically, through my experiences with remote viewing, the next natural step for some is to make contact with others. I know it sounds like bullcrap, but here's what made me a believer and scared me shitless one night. Lying in bed before I go to sleep, I guess you could call meditating and doing what I learned on how to make contact. If you want to learn how, just watch Dr. Greer's movies with CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. After doing this for a few nights, I had my not-so-fun encounter. I was sleeping on the couch at the time because of my sleep apnea keeping my wife up. I didn't mind, it was actually pretty comfortable. So here I am sleeping on my back with the back of the couch to my right, and to my left was the edge of the couch. This is important to know because what happened next is something I think about every day since it happened. So, I'm asleep but not in deep sleep when I hear a voice speaking into my left ear. Not both ears, only my left ear. I heard a voice but couldn't tell what she was saying at first. Then I started to wake up just slightly, just enough to hear the voice say, "So you think." Then I fell asleep again, but could still hear, and more disturbingly feel words being whispered into my left ear. I could feel the air as a weird female, like angry sounding voice whispered in my left ear, like if you were to yell at someone, but in a whisper type voice. An angry whisper, if you like. Steve, I could feel her. It whisper. She was very close to my ear. It was so clear I felt the air in my ear. I got the message. I'm pretty sure they were telling me to knock it off and don't try to make contact anymore. In a way, I wish so badly I knew what the entire message was. I want to try hypnotic therapy to see if I can recall the message, but I can't afford it. Sometimes I think about trying to contact the voice and attempt to communicate with it, but they didn't sound very nice or friendly. So there you go. I tried to make contact with a benevolent being not of this earth, and instead made contact with some being I managed to piss off, or a being that wasn't so friendly and was warning me or threatening me. Be careful if you start going down this rabbit hole of attempting to contact others, because something may contact you. But for you personally, Steve, look into remote viewing and try it for yourself. I have no doubt you'll be able to do it well enough to know it's not bullshit. So why aren't we taught this? This amazing hard-to-believe skill we all have should be taught to us as young as possible so we can grow this skill. I've taught this to my 14-year-old daughter, and she has been able to make it work with some amazing results. I hope she sticks with it and her skills keep getting stronger. So yes, that is only one skill we do have that somehow has been forgotten or hidden. Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Take care and Godspeed. If you're ever in Arizona and want to go hunting, let me know. Don't recommend you visit in the summer unless you like 115 degrees plus days and no rain, whatever that is. I'd love for my son and I to go hunting up there with you in Canada, but it looks absolutely breathtaking. And you can be damn sure I'll shake your hand and look you in the eye, like men are supposed to do. The only time I make a fist is to hit someone, and this elbow shit, it seems anything remotely manly is called evil these days. I wish we could go back to the days where life was like a John Wayne movie. P.S. Oh, quick story. My daughter and I like to drive out of town and to watch meteor showers. One night we were out bundled up under the blankets in the bed of my truck watching a meteor shower, and I was telling my daughter about Bigfoot sightings. She probably thinks your father is crazy, but anyway, here I am talking about the experiences from your videos. When I hear something moving, I instantly freeze and listen carefully to something moving toward the tailgate. It's 1 a.m. in the middle of the desert and I can't see anything. Then I see the outline of something raising above the tailgate. I'm frozen, still looking at this thing get taller and taller over the tailgate, like watching a movie I couldn't move. This thing kept getting taller, right on my tailgate, and I realized I was just talking about Sasquatch, and I know that if you're thinking of them, they seem to know about it. This thing makes a noise, a loud noise. My heart pounding out of my chest, I almost have a stroke, but I'm trying hard not to look scared for my daughter's sake. Then I realized that I recognized the noise. Did I mention we have free-range horses here and a donkey, apparently, because this damn donkey decided to come and say howdy to us and almost gave me a heart attack and ruined a pair of pants. Thought you might find this little humor at my expense, damn donkey. Charles Velasquez, pronounced Velasquez, Phoenix, Arizona. Doubts are traitors in making us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. Shakespeare. All right, man. Appreciate your email. Big time. Hunting down there in that heat. Whew. I don't know. I appreciate the offer, and believe me, if I could, I'd whip right over there and go hang out just to see the country. Kind of reminds me when the first time I went down south, and I was there in springtime along the Nueces River. I think it was south of Uvalde. Holy shit, that was hot. Man, that was hot. I just could not believe stuff even lived down there. But sure enough, there's the deer tracks in the sand. And we were shooting hogs and jackrabbits that big and seeing them and snakes everywhere. Pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm definitely not a desert type. The remote viewing, I have heard about that. I've listened to Michael Jaco on Rumble. I've listened to him a few times, and he has that skill. What was he? SEAL? And he spends a lot of time trying to spread the truth as well. Interesting stuff. I think once I get time, I think I will look into that, because I am curious to crack open any skills that we can recover that we've had smashed out of us by the evil sons of bitches. Trying not to rant. I got a tiny rant. I ordered a case of ammunition a little bit ago, and I just got a message in the email this morning saying that they can't deliver to my address with the courier they have because it has to transfer to another one, and they won't ship anything if it's related to guns or ammunition. All those poor people. It's amazing. It's amazing what the majority or some of the herd has been conditioned to get emotional about or react to, isn't it? It's freaking embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing to me. Imagine being programmed to think that guns are evil. Guns are evil and bad. You can't even put a picture of a gun on the internet or you get spanked. It's so freaking embarrassing. But anyway, like I've always said, there's only two groups of people that are scared of firearms. Number one is criminals, and number two, well, possibly number one is the government. The government's scared of guns, and criminals are scared of guns. But I guess they're both the same hand in hand currently, aren't they? Dirty pricks. Anyway, moving along. Thanks again for that email, man, and those kind words. Really appreciate it. Alright, what's this one? It's kind of funny, isn't it? Kind of random. Sometimes I'll crack open emails and the topic goes a little off what we normally receive, and then the next following email is along the same lines. Maybe this is too, I don't know. Listen to this. How thoughts can kill. Psychic duels. Hi Steve, I'm sending you some info about some suppressed knowledge that I accidentally came across when doing research on the UC Berkeley Digital Library on the giants that different ancient tribes in the Sierra had to contend with way back. If you could read the PDF file that I sent with this email, I believe it will show how our governments were and still are aware of the power of the mind and how they don't want us to know about it. I'd like to share one of my supernatural encounters from 2 Novembers ago in the Sierra after coming back from a hike in an ice. Jesus, 2 dogs. You guys just scared the crap out of me. Hi. How's it going? Good. Just making a video.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. No problem at all. Ooh, there we go. Guess the old spidey senses were a little bit correct anyway. Lady and her daughter and the dog's taking a walk. All right, here we go. I'd like to share one of my supernatural encounters from 2 Novembers ago in the Sierra. After coming back from a hike in an isolated canyon, where I was able to take a video of a forest person back in 2016. I was projecting thoughts to them, the forest people, that I wanted to leave them a few cookies. I set the cookies by a tree not far from where I was sitting on my tailgate. As soon as I projected those thoughts, out with cookies in place, I hear these loud steps coming from the direction of the canyon I just came from. The steps had a long stride to them, and it was getting louder and closer. The steps stopped just in front of me, where a single, thin, short pine tree was. The whole pine tree started swaying back and forth, as I can see through the thin tree with nothing visible standing behind it. There was no wind whatsoever, but yet that tree was swaying back and forth. The tree was only about 15 feet tall, with the bottom of its trunk being about 5 inches in diameter, like a large Christmas tree. I'll send you a photo also of who I believe this is. The same forest person on the video in that same canyon for 2016. The forest person in this photo is levitating up in a pine tree above the creek that comes out of the canyon. This isn't the only photo that I have, and have had numerous encounters with them, and will send that other photo to you along with explaining about that particular hike and how it came to taking that photo. Please don't give my name out, as I still work for a certain government agency. P.S. I have a fear now every time I get out there when going on these hikes by myself. When getting out of my vehicle, I listen, I look all around, and then I slowly work my way deeper into the woods. And even when I'm deeper in the woods, I'm still listening, looking all around, and proceeding slowly, knowing they are there. And yes, the tracks, so many tracks off trail, they have become commonplace, as I seldom photograph them, as they are hard to see in a photo on most occasions. But I do have some good visible ones. Thanks for being who you are. Okay, man. Oh yeah, I can see the photos clear. The image, I'll share them on the video. Wow, that looks crazy. That photo, I can see right away. It looks like a nose and forehead and eyeballs. Bizarre, right? I'll share those up with the people. Thanks for sending that out. And you got a set on you for still going out there alone. I guess your instincts are in tune enough that it's enough to let you know that it's actually is safe, right? So far. Oh, my eyeball's itchy. You videotaped one, that's interesting. You know what the people are going to be screaming in the comment section below. Where's the video? Whatever, you want to share it one day, go ahead. If not, I'm good. You know, it's funny, I still do have a video. It was emailed to me, I think almost a year ago now. Still waiting for the green light to share it. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But it is very, very incredible. It's a very incredible video. Probably, it could possibly be one of the best ever. Right up there with the Patterson film. Yeah, it's right up there with that for sure. But out of respect for, I do not do anybody wrong. Somebody shares something with me, asks me not to share it, I don't share it. It's not hard. It pisses some people off, but I'll tell you what, you ever see me in person, come up to me and I'll show you the video. That's what I've done so far in the past. But anyway, moving along. Okay, what do we got here? These are back, this is like October 20th, this is, what? This is February 21. February 22, whatever. Got a bunch of dates on here. Hey Steve, after you shared my encounter about what I saw on the quarry, I told a couple people I worked with the next day. I couldn't believe what I was told by one of them next. On the quarry. On the quarry. So I think that possibly was the guy who wrote in from the UK with they saw the being on the edge of the quarry and went up there and there's a fox sleeping. Maybe that's the same one. What comes to mind when you say quarry. Carl, who is my boss, said that he was doing a stint at a military prison for the remainder of his sentence. It was the middle of the summer, and the billets where they slept always had the doors open during the night. The night this happened saw him go to his bed following his gym session. He said he was just drifting off to sleep, laying on his side with his back to the open doors, when he heard heavy breathing / growling literally right behind him. He said he turned over to be met with an outline of something massive and still breathing like it was about to attack him. Stevie then said he turned away terrified. He said he turned over again, ready to fight, and it was gone. Now this guy's a no-nonsense man who's built like a gorilla, Steve, and he is not the type to bullshit you. So, this shit's going on, no matter what continent you float on. Thank you for your sheer honesty and tenacity with regards to everything you do. Regards, Paul Moxon, UK branch of the Club No Return. That was you. Okay, man, gotcha. That's interesting and alarming at the same time, don't you think? And yes, it is going on everywhere. Now, mark this as red. New listener, but I'm in. Hear my story. That's the title of this one. Hello. My dad introduced me to your YouTube channel. I'm an empath and have had several encounters throughout my life. I've always felt things very deeply, especially in the woods. I watched a video where you read an email from a lady who heard a voice in her head and my ears perked up. I got goosebumps and my inner energy escalated. I've been there recently. I was single at the time, about 2019, and have always felt at home in the woods. I love going to the forest alone just to listen to the trees and wind and animals. I'm a quiet hiker, so I see quite a bit of things. One day I was hiking alone in the afternoon, much to the chagrin of my family, who continues to warn me never to hike alone. I was in a beautiful area that I had only hiked a couple of times, and I wanted to see where it went. I was on a roll and ready to go far. However, I was going up a hill about 2 miles in, excited to see what was on the other side, and I heard a clear voice in my head telling me to turn around. I argued in my head, explaining that I wanted to see what was ahead. The voice got louder, like it was yelling at me. Turn around now, it yelled. I never felt like I was in danger, but I felt the voice was trying to protect me and keep me safe. By the third time it yelled loudly in my head to turn around now, I stopped arguing. I stopped hiking and listened. I heard nothing. It was very quiet. The voice quieted but still spoke in my head, turn around, go back now, now, now. I felt urgency to leave, as if there was something menacing ahead that the voice was protecting me from. I turned and hustled back the way I came. I was shaking, but not from fear of the voice. I felt like the voice was walking behind and beside me like a friend trying to usher someone away from danger. I returned to my car and went on with my day, kept thinking about the voice I'd heard and was grateful for whatever reason it kept me safe. Thank you for sharing the story of the other woman who heard the voice in her head. I feel like I'm not crazy after all. I'm married now and go hiking with my husband. He will hike ahead, not too far, and let me talk to the trees, which I love. I still feel at home in the woods, but I feel safer going with someone now. I'm not sure what I was protected from that day, but I'm always grateful for the voice that kept me safe. Anyway, that's my latest encounter that I remember so well. Thank you again for sharing the stories of others. Stay safe. Dana. Or Dana. Dana or Dana. Also, sorry, this is longer than I anticipated. Thanks for listening to my story. It's actually a short one. No problem. We got it. And very interested in hearing it. And just like you were knee-jerked from reading somebody else's similar experience, somebody else just did the same from hearing yours. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. It's endless. It's endless. All right, here we go. Mark, this is red. This is titled Many Puzzle Pieces. Hi, Steve. First, I want to thank you and the Howtohunt community. Through this channel and everyone's stories, my husband and I have been able to fit together a lot of puzzle pieces. Personally, I've always known about Sasquatch. My father had an experience when he was a teenager. Though I haven't heard the story a lot in my nearly 50 years of life. The few times I've heard it, not one detail has ever changed. When I was little, my father's brothers used to give him shit about seeing a Sasquatch. It upset me, but didn't faze my father. He just told me the truth is the truth, even if people don't believe it. That really stuck with me. I won't share my father's story. It's his to share, but I believe that telling our own stories is a sort of a therapy. My husband also had an experience when I've tried to encourage him to share his, and I've tried to encourage him to share his with you and the community as his encounter seems to have affected him in a more negative way than mine have affected me. What I'm about to share are the things that have happened to us. Me, my husband, and our children. We continue to have encounters on our property, which is the reason I'm not going to share my identity. I don't feel or want any tree smackers running around like fools in my woods. Years ago, shortly after we moved into our home, my husband and I were woken up by what sounded like someone on our roof beating on the vent over our bathroom. The noise stopped as soon as we got up and were standing. Years later, our daughter told us she was seeing people with flashlights out her bedroom window in a field next to our home at night. We told her to come and wake us the next time it happens. A few nights later, she comes and wakes me. My husband had recently been put on third shift and wasn't home at the time. I went into her bedroom and looked out her window. And even though this happened at least 12 years ago, I remember it like it happened last night. There, gliding smoothly over the field, were two orange balls of light. They moved in a steady pace and with no up and down movement that would accompany a human walking with a flashlight over a bumpy field. Between the field and the woods is a drainage creek that was about 6-foot bank. The orbs glided right over it, at the same steady pace and same height. Once they reached the woods beyond the creek, I had to move to another room to look out another window to see them. From the other window, I watched as the two orbs became one very large orb just inside the tree line. Now, that's interesting. When it was traveling across the field, it had been traveling north. When it reached the woods and became one very large orb, it began traveling west. It was just inside the tree line. It lit up the trees around it as it moved in the same steady pace as it did crossing the field. The center of the orb was solid light, but around the edges was more transparent, and I could see the trees through it. After about 30 seconds of watching it, it simply disappeared. My next encounter happened years later. I woke up in the early hours of the morning. I don't remember why I woke up or what woke me. I came out of my bedroom in the living room and was completely stunned, as standing there at the window with a bright full moon backlighting it was the head and shoulders of a very large figure. At the time, I had sheer curtains on the window and could clearly make out a large head, no neck, and very wide shoulders. It had to be about 7 to 8 feet tall and at least 4 feet wide at the shoulders. I was frozen with fear. As I stood and watched it, turned its head to the left and then turned its shoulders and walked away. When it turned its head, I could make out its short nose and the fact that its forehead stuck out further than its chin. Oh wow, that's creepy. I don't know how long I stood there before I finally gathered up enough courage to go to the window and look out to see where it went. But when I did, it was gone. Most activity here happens during the summer. The past few years, it's been almost as if we've been unwillingly bartering with these things. It began with a dead skunk laid out in front of our pole barn, right in the center of the cement slab, laid out as if it were being presented as a gift or something. It was dead, but there was no visible trauma or anything. After that, our chickens began to disappear. We live in a rural area and have plenty of predators that could take our chickens. Anytime an animal has gotten our chickens, there's been a visible struggle. Feathers left all over and even drops of blood. However, our chickens would just be gone. They would disappear one at a time without any visible struggle. After the skunk was left, we began losing a chicken or two a week. Every time one would come up missing, a dead possum would be left somewhere on our property. They would always be in place where we wouldn't miss them. In the middle of the trail, we would walk along our property every day or right in the middle of the backyard. Over the past 2 summers, we've lost several chickens. They've left us with 1 hen and 1 rooster. It's so bizarre, but it gets even more bizarre. We decided to let the hen that was left hatch her eggs. She'd been sitting on a dozen eggs. One night, all the eggs disappeared from the chicken coop. Our chicken coop has a person door and a chicken door, Our chicken coop has a person door and a chicken door. Both we close and lock at night. Aside from being left dead animals every time a chicken went missing, I'll often find marbles in my vegetable garden. Our children are all adults, and my husband and I are the only ones who spend time in our garden. Neither one of us are leaving any marbles there. I know this is quite long, and I'm sorry. Just want to get this all out. We've had rocks thrown on our roof. Sasquatch has hit the outside of our house, always on our bedroom wall. We've had all the pears on our pear tree disappear in one night. Not a single one was left, not even on the ground. The last 2 encounters are the ones that scare me the most. One happened to me and one to my daughter. Each was years apart, and I don't know if they are related at all. First mine. One day I was walking out to my garden. It's just in my backyard. As I stepped down off my porch and began to walk to the garden, I see about 5 feet in front of me a form that looks like plastic wrap just standing there. I didn't move, and I honestly thought it was my eyes. In my 30s, I had an illness that affected my sight, although I can see well with my glasses. I did have my glasses, but I took them off and squinted at it. I could still see it. I rubbed my eyes, and still the see-through form was there. For some reason, I got the overwhelming urge to just turn around and go back inside. That's what I did. I didn't tell anyone about it for years until my husband and I were watching 411 The Hunted. The story about Yan, the hunter who had an encounter with one of these invisible things, confirmed that it wasn't a problem with my eyesight. The last story was my daughter's, and one that bothers me the most by far. It just happened months ago in 2020. I'm going to share her story because she won't talk about it anymore and just wants to forget about it. She was home alone one night. She's an adult, and we have 2 protective dogs. She said the dogs were at the back door acting weird. They were growling at the door. She said she looked out the door. It's a sliding glass door, and looked out, but she couldn't see anything, but could hear what sounded like our backyard was full of puppies. My daughter loves dogs, so she opened the door to see what was going on. She said that she opened the door, stepped out on the deck, and heard what sounded like a hiss, or someone saying shh, right beside her. Then everything went silent, even our dogs. She had a plate of food in her hand and dropped it right there on the deck and quickly went inside, locking the door behind her. Well, there you have it. I've typed this email several times and never sent it. I don't know what was holding me back. I'll keep encouraging my husband and father to write in their stories. Thanks again for all you do, Steve. You're a good man. All right, thank you very, very much for sending that. And make sure you send, well, I'm sure your husband's going to see it, right? I don't know if you want to crack it open to your daughter or not and take her back to that trauma. She's going to deal with it the way she's going to deal with it, right? But I guess education is as well important. And your father, well, I guess send it to him and see if that might knee-jerk him into wanting to share what's up with what he witnessed. But anyway, that was a fair chunk of handfuls shared. But getting back to you, I know Scott Carpenter's had some proven methods of ridding property of these beings in the past, so you may want to get a hold of him or look up some of his videos and see if you may be interested in that. As I know one thing for me, I don't give a shit who or what you are. I don't need anything hovering around outside the bedroom of the house or the animals on the property at all. I just don't, and I'm not down with it myself. But anyway, there you go. I gotta get my button gear. I gotta get all prepped up and ready for tomorrow for the chicken processing. Got a little bit more to fix on my pickup truck because I am gonna go away again soon to the remote north. What else am I gonna mention? There's a lot of people out there who are sharing truth, what's going on the globe, truth that affects every single one of us, although a lot of us don't want to hear it, don't want to accept it, don't want to face it. Just roll with the frickin' waves that come at them, even though they could possibly have something to do with stopping them. But anyway, what I've learned, what I've been watching, what's going on today, I could babble on right now and tell you all about all the nasty things and the proof and etc., but that's just being done non-stop from everybody. Everybody's pointing out the evil, dirty, filthy shit that's being imposed on us, especially here in Canada and the United States, from the people who are currently in power, taking our power, using it against us. And I'm more interested in how to stop it. What can be done to stop it? The remedy, how to stop it. Or more interested in having the specific names on a list of who's responsible. Those are 2 things that I've been having in my mind a lot lately. And what I was thinking was, because it's almost like you have to use the recipe against them, which they've used on us, which is controlling the media with absolute control. The extent of how they control it lately is so brutal. It's so brutal. Once you look into it for yourself, it's plain as frickin' vanilla. It's in your face. It's easy to see. What I'm thinking, I rarely ever, I don't contact other, what's it called, influencers. I don't contact people with big followings. I don't give a shit. I'm all about the people. I'm about the people, right? That's what I'm all about. It's all of us, all of you, and I'm included with you. It's all about us, and that is the absolute strength. And but what I'm thinking is, if we're going to make everything better for us, I think we possibly have to get like-minded people who have substantial followings, and all of those people get together and have some kind of a meeting and decide on what is possibly the most important, honest message and information to get out to the people. Do you know what I mean? And possibly combine those people, get that list, a priority list of true honest knowledge that needs to be set out, and all of those good honest messengers band together and send the same message at the same time for X amount of time, and then move down that list of the top 1 to 10. I'm thinking that's possibly a way to make a serious impact. If that made any sense what I just said. Because that is the tool, that is the successful recipe the dirty evil pricks have used against us. They have corralled up all the media outlets, own them, and they decide what gets pumped out to the people. And that has been very effective on screwing us over big time. So, what I'm thinking is that recipe needs to be harnessed by the good people and used against them. What do you think? Does that make any sense? If it does, maybe email me in on that note and add to what I just suggested. And funny, there's a bird flopping in these thick bushes, and it sounded like footsteps coming down the shore of the river right there. It's just a bird. But anyway, I think that might be an idea, is to possibly get in touch with as many of the truth-sharing people who care about all you, care about all of us, and they have substantial followings, and possibly get a hold of them and have a serious meeting with this topic, and see if you can't ramp up sharing true, honest knowledge with all the people at the same time, and somewhat mimic the recipe that the evil pricks have used against us, and use it against them. Turn it around, use it against them, and harness the power of the good people, right? But use that power to spread the good and the helpful and the honesty. That's what I'm thinking lately. I'm done with everybody's pointing out this, pointing out that, pointing out this, and everybody just keeps on pointing out the dirty, filthy shit these pricks are doing. It's nonstop, but I see that that's not really getting us anywhere. So, I think a list of the top priority messages of truth need to be listed, and all of the good people who have some kind of influence and following needs to band together and start pounding that honest truth out to the people, just the same way the evil pricks pound out the lies to us, right? I think that'd be very effective. So I just might start going out of my way to contact people who potentially have a substantial following and are on the same page, although they'll probably take a look at who I am on here and think, who's this crazy bastard, right? Anyway, there you go. Anybody wants to touch base on that idea, that thought, email me in some input, all right? Now, here I go. Back to my day. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Send it. Get it off your chest. If it's going to help somebody, send it here and we'll get it out to the people that need the help. And the backup channel, I always forget it, the Round Table of Knowledge by HTH. If anybody wonders what that is, that's How to Hunt. Okay, I'll be back shortly.